Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And away we go here on this Thursday. Glad you're with us, Larry Smith. Great guest coming up. We promised earlier this week we would talk with Mike Maniscalco. He's the play-by-play man for the NHL's Carolina Hurricanes. They had a big win over the weekend, you might have seen. We've kind of assumed that he may be in the void somewhere for a few days celebrating that championship. Well, he's going to join us here in a couple of minutes. He surfaced, and we will talk with him about the Hurricanes' big Stanley Cup victory over Vegas. Also, a bit later, a little WNBA talk. Our friend Stephen PridGeon-Gardner joining us, and so we'll get to talk about the Ladies Hoops Commissioner Cup is now set. Vegas, Las Vegas, and New York. Lots of good stuff happening here, even though NBA and NHL have closed up shop for the summer. A couple of headlines before we get going here. Let's start with the World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo and his Portugal teammates can only manage a 1-1 draw with Congo DR on Wednesday in their opening World Cup match. Now, Congo DR playing at the World Cup for the first time in 52 years. Their last foray into the World Cup back in 1974 when they were shut out in all three matches. Well, down 1-0 early, they got the a header in stoppage play for Congo DR's first World Cup goal in the country's history. 1-1 draws where they start things off. England getting it all it wanted from Croatia in their opening round match, but the English coming through in the end with a 4-2 win. Harry Kane, one of England's main stars, did his part with 2 goals of the day, tied with at 2 at the half. England's Jude Bellingham finding some open space, scoring just 2 minutes into the second stanza to give England the lead that they would not give up. And let's give Austria some props, if you will. The Austrians had not won a World Cup game in 36 years coming into this tournament, but in their opener, they found a way to put 3 goals on board and come away with a 3-1 win over Jordan. World Cup continues here in North America. Meanwhile, the 2026 college baseball season down to just 2 teams. Number 5 North Carolina and Oklahoma will square off in the final stage of the College World Series in search of a national championship. Neither team lost a game in Omaha en route to the championship series, but something has to give when they meet Saturday at Charles Schwab Field. North Carolina advancing to the CWS Finals by way of a 12-7 win over number 15 West Virginia on Wednesday. Oklahoma punched its ticket hours later with an 11-4 victory over number 3 Georgia. Now, both offenses carry heaps of momentum into the weekend after scoring in double figures in their latest outing. For the Tar Heels, it was Owen Hall who sparked the onslaught against the Mountaineers. A 4-for-5 day at the plate featured 4 extra base hits, saw him finish only a home run shy of the cycle. And for the Sooners, meanwhile, Deshaun Harris and Jason Walk launching 2 home runs apiece in that rout of the Bulldogs. Oklahoma's bats in particular have leveled up in this postseason. Of the Sooners' 91 home runs and on the year, 43 coming in the last 16 games. So they have found a power supply here in the stretch run that they did not have all season long. The Sooners also received round trippers as well from 6 different players since the start of the College World Series. So that power not coming just from one place, but from several spots. So it is the Tar Heels and Sooners, UNC and Oklahoma in the finals there in Omaha for the College World Series. Again, the must-see TV here in June just seems to continue.
Time now for today's moment of all. June 18th, 2000. It was the 100th U.S. Open, and our national championship that year was one for the ages. Tiger Woods already on his way to becoming the face of the sport. Already a Masters champion at age 21. He'd added a PGA championship to his resume the year before hitting the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach and stepped onto that course there in Northern California that week, ready to make history. Tiger didn't just win the U.S. Open on this day. 26 years ago, he pulverized the field, winning by a record 15 strokes to capture his first national championship as a professional and became the only golfer ever to win the U.S. Junior Amateur, U.S. Amateur, and U.S. Open. Later that year at age 24, Tiger won the British Open to become the youngest golfer to complete the career Grand Slam, and that next spring won another Masters to capture an unprecedented 4 consecutive major titles. Tiger Woods in that record performance at Pebble Beach gets our moment of awe.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Sports IQ with Larry Smith continues now. We've been talking for several days now about the winter sports being over, and we promised you earlier this week we would at some point give our friend Mike Maniscalco a chance to catch his breath and then join us. He is now officially the play-by-play man of the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes. Mike, welcome. Congrats. Are you still on cloud 9? Have you come down yet?
If there's a cloud 10, I think I'm there, Larry. Just to be honest with you. Also, when you win a championship, when you're part of calling it or part of an organization that wins it, I've been told by several of my colleagues just what a great run this is. And then when you win a championship in Vegas, as you know, time doesn't exist there normally.
Right.
And after winning a Stanley Cup, it really, if you ask me what time this is, I might say I think we're in June, and that's the only answer I can give you. It was a great run, and the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't use deserve a lot. They deserve to win that title. It's been great, and it's all of the emotions that you would think being part of the team that wins the whole thing feels like.
Well, and I think, too, we talked about just this core of players being there under Coach Rod Brind'Amour. 8 straight years in the playoffs, couldn't quite get there. Conference finals, I think, a couple of times along the way. And to finally break through, to do so in dominating fashion, and then to have to really work to get this championship has to add to the satisfaction.
Yeah, I think it really does. And I think that the fact that what this team had been through the previous 7 seasons, where this was building to this moment, and then in particular, the 2 losses in the Eastern Conference Final to the Florida Panthers. Forget the one in 2019. I know that it was a thing because they got swept by Boston, and that was becoming a thing. Hey, the Canes hadn't won a conference final game until they won one last year. You'd have to go all the way back to when they won the Stanley Cup in 2006. So they slayed a lot of dragons along the way on this playoff run. And, the funny thing is people are going to talk about 16-3. That number, if you go through a playoff series where, it's not one game to move to the next round where you got to win 4, it's a best of 7. To go 16-3 is silly if you think about it in a postseason. And the way that they did it, it looked easy. I can tell you it wasn't. But this group, and what you pointed to, Larry, and if you give me a second, the core, first off, you start with the captain, Jordan Staal, who wins the playoff MVP, the Conn Smythe Trophy, who got dealt to Carolina 14 seasons ago, and it was supposed to work out different than what it did. He was supposed to join his brother, Eric, and they were supposed to kickstart this run that they're on now, that Jordan has been responsible for. So then you have players that they've drafted who've been through, a lot, if not all of this. Jacob Slavin, Sebastian Aho, and now you can take a look at Andrei Svechnikov, and then all of these pieces that have been there who they acquired along the way. Jordan Martinook, who they picked up 8 years ago. Canes have only known the playoffs since they picked up a heart and soul player like that from Arizona. But it does all begin and end with Rod Brind'Amour. He was tasked with making the Carolina Hurricanes relevant. And Larry, you know this. You covered the Southeast Division. You covered the Metro Division. And the Canes were the also-rans in that division. And now they're not just the best team in the Metro. They are a standard for the league that you've got to measure yourself to what the Carolina Hurricanes are. And that was the goal of Rod Brind'Amour when he wanted to be the head coach of the team, when he got the job. And, I don't think that this Stanley Cup would be as sweet if there wasn't the 9 years of missing the playoffs before, and then the coming so close, it's the old next year's champions, right? Right. And then they finally broke through. Just ask the Washington Capitals about when you finally break through. And does it matter if anything that was said before you? It really doesn't. And I think it's that core group, and then you take a look at the players who they've added to help get them over the hump, in particular this year. And, it's just a great group, and the mix was perfect. And when they played their game, they were almost impossible to beat. And I think that the hockey world at least saw it during this playoff run.
No question. Talking to Mike Maniscalco, he's the voice of the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes. You mentioned 16-3, the 19 games. I believe that's just one shy of the record fewest games to win a Stanley Cup,
Right.
to go through. And again, like you said, really impressive because that's 4 series and yet only 3 losses, which is pretty impressive. Of course, the big move in this series was the change in goalie. We talked before the series when Frederik Andersen and what a run he was on. Talk about that change mid-series to make that switch in net. That really changed everything, the trajectory of this series at that point.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that went into that, Larry. I think one was, and Rod Brind'Amour, when the series was over, kind of admitted that Frederik Andersen, there was a collision in game 3, and it kind of knocked him, and where he didn't feel 100%. And then there's the human side of it. He lost his very good friend and his agent, Claude Lemieux.
Right.
I can't speculate on mindsets, but we're human, right? If you lose somebody who's close to you, that'll weigh on you. And then, by the way, we have, and for the media, you have a job to do, but when you keep getting asked about it, right, there's no escape to it. So I just think that how great, and I will use that word, Frederik Andersen was in the first, second, and then third round, the Eastern Conference Final, going toe-to-toe with, this goalie is going to be better than him in his track record. And then to get to the Cup final, and it wasn't that he was awful. It was just that he wasn't as good as he was in the previous rounds. And then you have Brandon Bussey waiting in the wings. And does that turn the series? Yeah, I mean, you can point to the tangible evidence that here's a 27-year-old rookie, Larry. Hi, your first playoff starts are going to be in the Stanley Cup final. Go win it. And he goes 3-0 in his starts. And I really think it started in that third period in game 3. Carolina's down 4-0. They go to Brandon Bussey, the smart move made by their goaltending coach, Paul Schoenfelder. Like, there's so many things, and you know this, and folks who, study champions, there's so many things that have to go right. But so many people behind the scenes that, we point to, for football, you point to the quarterback and the head coach. Well, you know what? There's a quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator. And then there's like all these people who go into it. And for the Canes, their goaltending coach, Paul Schoenfelder, and I'll give Rod Brind'Amour credit on the move to switch the goalies. He hates pulling a goalie in the middle of a period. He doesn't like doing it. If he's going to do it, he'll do it in the intermission. I think that gave Brandon Bussey time to get mentally prepared to go in. And by the way, it's Vegas, so I can use the term house money. They're down 4-0, right? They're down 4-0. So if he gives up 2 or 3 goals, well, what does that matter in his first appearance? And he was utterly brilliant in that third period. And the Canes get up off the deck and tie the game. And this is after being down 2-0 in game 2, where it looked like they had nothing going for them. They won game 2. They forced overtime in game 3. Brandon Bussey was really good now. A guy who hadn't played for 54 days has confidence. If you need him in game 4, he's good to go. And he is. And then there's a seed of doubt that they planted in Vegas's mind, I think, with those 2 comebacks. Even though they didn't win game 3, Vegas, I really think, was sitting in that locker room going, what do we have to do to knock these guys out? You've seen Rocky. You've seen Rocky too. It's when Tony gives the speech to Apollo about why he doesn't want to fight Rocky in the second fight. I've seen you beat that man like no man's been beaten, and they kept coming after you. Like that's, I think that kind of weighed in the Stanley Cup final with games 2 and 3. And then Brandon Bussey, I can't wait for the Disney movie about this year from him, because it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. You're exactly right. That was our next question as well, is how much Maalox did you go through? And the team, they bring it by the case, because every single game you look up and go, oh my God, it's 2-0. Oh, wait, it's overtime. It's double overtime. It's, we talked about in the NBA finals, the Knicks kept coming back from double-digit deficits, and they did in all 4 of their wins. It was the same here. Did this team, before game 6, did they ever have the lead after the second intermission? I mean, it doesn't feel like they did.
No, I mean, it's they had it. They had it in game 5, and then that's
okay.
Yeah, so I mean, nothing like waiting until, and I think it took however, if I'm doing the quick math, and we had double overtimes here, nothing like playing 400 minutes until you get the lead going into the third period. That's fine, but it's just how this team plays, and for me, I don't play, so I get a little bit nervous before the game, and it's funny because my wife, before game 6, at the end of game 5, I made a comment, all right, so the Canes have a chance to win the whole thing. So, you want to set up the next game. I said, we're heading to Sin City where they like gold, but there's a big piece of silver waiting for the Hurricanes there. And my wife she goes, you know that if they win in game 6, your call is going to be played forever. And I wasn't nervous until my wife said that to me. And I'm like, oh God, now do I got to write something down? Like, I generally like do like an outline or have an idea of something I want to say. And I didn't change up. I had an outline of what I wanted to say, and everything presented itself the way that the game was played. But no, I'm going to go the other way, Larry. This is what you dream about, right? I'm getting these overtime games and double overtime games and great comebacks, and I'm not sitting there going, hey, can you pass the Tums? Although I do have them in my bag just in case. But it was the if you can't play it, if you can't be the player scoring the winning goal or hitting the shot or, coming through with a base hit or getting the out, as you've lived this, we want to call that. And I am lucky enough to be in that position where I got to call it. And no, it was just wonderful. And I was taken back to my partner, Chip Tracy, on the other hand. I was worried that we were going to need, the EMTs to come up and make sure he was okay. Because he's like really invested into it. As he told me, you got to keep talking. I'm watching this stuff. The thing for me, and I don't know why I kept flashing back to it, but I think it's the way that the first 3 games played, and they were just utterly ridiculous with the comebacks from both sides. I was reminded of the 75 World Series, Boston and Cincinnati, and there's this story of Pete Rose is digging in. And, Carlton Fisk is telling the story. And Carlton Fisk goes, I'm trying not to throw up or pass out. And Pete Rose digs in and goes, Fisky, isn't this great? And that, and in my mind, like I kept looking at Tripp going, isn't this great? Like like you dream about it. And that's what the series was. And I think the ratings showed it too. That's the other part of it. Like, fans bought into how crazy this was and how good these teams were playing at each other. But for me, I just wanted to relay that excitement of, man, we get to do this. Isn't this great? And it was, honestly, you have a thought in your mind of, you're going to call a championship or how it's going to feel. Because again, I work for the Hurricanes too. I'm not just leased out from a station. I work with the team and the players and the coaching staff every day. And it happens. And you get hit with this feeling, like you imagined what it would be, and it's 5 million times better than what you could even comprehend it's going to be when that clock hits 0. And these folks that you go through, you basically you see them more than your family to see them, reach that goal. It's just, I'm trying to put it into words, but it's hard to do it other than it is a better feeling than you even can imagine. That's the only way. Think of I'm not talking about like life-changing moments, like if you have a child, your wedding day, things like that. But I mean, it's right up there, and then it kind of zooms past anything below those kind of events in your life. It's unreal.
Yeah. Well, and you're right, and your wife is right. You're going to be the guy, not only that call being played over and over again, but you'll be that guy in 30 years. They're going to call back and go, yeah, remember that? Yeah, I was there. And this happened, and it was in the locker room, you threw up and whatever, So hey, I've got about a minute and a half left here. I want to get in, though, Rod Brind'Amour and what he's meant to this franchise as a player and now as a coach. Truly one of the all-time great Hurricanes. There's no question this solidifies them.
He means everything. Outside of outside of Peter Carmanos, who, and I know people in Hartford hated to lose their team, and you hate when that happens, but sometimes business is business. And then Tom Dundon, who buys the team and names Rod the head coach. I don't know if there has been a more important person to, and I'll just put it in the Carolina Hurricanes terms. We'll forget about the past. I don't think there's a more important person to the relevancy of what this hockey club means to this area and what he means to this organization. If there's no Rod Brind'Amour, I'm not sure about, we can always play those speculation games, but the Carolina Hurricanes are not what they are if Rod Brind'Amour never put on a Canes uniform. He has so much pride of that crest and wanting to be the best and how he sets it. And he had the greatest line when he won as the captain in 06. That was for him, selfishly chasing the championship. These are his words. And then he goes, but this one, he wanted that feeling for the 23 guys who have been a part of this team all year long. He wanted them to have that. And then he wants everybody here to have it. He said he wanted to bring pride back to the logo. Well, he's done that tenfold. He is the most important person ever to walk through the doors to be a part of the Carolina Hurricanes organization.
Yeah, what a special part of the story of Disney does come calling, just in terms of in his history here and what he's done. Mike, listen, it has been wonderful to get a chance to I don't say share the ride with you, but to be a spectator with this and through your eyes through this whole series. Listen, if you're still hungover, we get it, and go have another bourbon. Enjoy this time, and really appreciate your time. And hopefully, again, we can talk again soon about anything you want to talk about.
Oh, you got it. And Larry, you cannot be hungover when time doesn't exist. And that's kind of the run that we're on. Again, still here. I'd like to say that I'm balanced right now. And then the parade that's coming up on Saturday, that's going to be a different story, because I get the feeling that we might be enjoying that celebration with all of the Canes fans. They're anticipating about maybe 250,000 people. Yeah. I know that the Canyon of Heroes for the Knicks is insane, and that's a different level of craziness. But this group is going to have a pretty damn good party as well down here in Raleigh.
It's awesome. Well deserved. It has been just wonderful to see this and to follow this all the way along. The people of Raleigh deserve it. The team deserves it. And like I said, savor this moment, because there's nothing quite like it. Mike, congratulations. And man, we really appreciate your time and enjoy. You know, it's kind of like, reminds you of the movie, that first Percy Jackson movie, where they go into Vegas, the casino, and they're eating the lotus flowers, and like 3 days goes by and they don't even know. So it's kind of the same thing. Like it's still Monday for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'm not in Vegas anymore. I could be in my house. I could still be wherever the cup was, where it ended up at the end of the evening. I'm not 100% sure.
Excellent. Well, Mike, thanks, buddy. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. And anytime you guys need me on, just reach out. Love talking to you guys, and thanks for letting me share the ride with you guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. And we'll be doing that as well. Thanks so much. Mike Maniscalco, again, voice of the now Stanley Cup champion. Great to say that. I get chills saying it. Stanley Cup champion, Carolina Hurricanes, as they knock off the Vegas Golden Knights. First Cup, again, in 20 years. And what a ride it has been. Okay, much more to come here on the Sports IQ. Let's continue here on the Sports IQ. A little baseball news to get to you right now as we continue. The Mets have deep pockets, of course. They are not afraid to spend money. In the offseason, they gave a truckload of that cash to former Blue Jay Bo Bichette. But through the first 2 months of the season, that money looked, wasted would be a good word for it. But Bo knows heat. And with the temps rising in June, so is his hitting. Last night, Bo Bichette continuing his hot streak with 3 hits, leading the Mets to a 9-1 win and avoiding a sweep at the hands of the Reds. Bichette has multiple hits in 6 straight games, 8 for 14 in the 3-game series. The third baseman also is batting .539, 14 for 26 over these last 6 games, 2 homers and 8 RBIs during that time. Don't get too excited, Mets fans. You're still 31-41 on the year, and in last place in the NL East, 13 and a half games behind the Braves. But hey, we like to cheer for something, and cheering for Bo right now, what he's been doing. Speaking of the Braves, it was a rough day at Truist Park for them. The Giants hitting 3 homers in the second inning, including a 2-run shot by Luis Arraez. Carson Whisenhunt won a matchup of rookie starting pitchers as San Francisco held off Atlanta 7-5 on Wednesday night to sweep a split doubleheader. The Giants won the opening game 7-2 as left-hander Robbie Ray threw 6 1/3 scoreless innings. It was the completion of Tuesday night's game, which was suspended due to rain. Well, the Knicks are still riding high after taking the NBA title back to New York City over the weekend. The parade slated for today in New York. Last night, Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart teaming up again, this time at Yankee Stadium, to throw the first pitch before the Yanks took the field against the White Sox. The Yankees did not disappoint the hometown fans, as they got an early homer from Cody Bellinger, who had a great night, finished a triple shy of the cycle. Paul Goldschmidt homering for the 3rd time in 4 games. The surging Yankees used another big inning to beat the White Sox 10-5. Bellinger hitting a 2-run homer in the first off Anthony Kay, by the way, who falls to 6-2 on the season. Later doubled in the 3rd against the left-hander, and he began a 5-run 5th with a single as well. Bellinger finishing 3 hits for the 5th time this season. WNBA Wednesday night, Olivia Miles setting a league rookie record with 24 first-half points on our way to a career-high 31. Minnesota over LA, 99-83. Miles, the number 2 overall pick in the draft from TCU, was 12 of 15 from the field. She has been phenomenal here in this first month of the season. Natasha Howard, 15 points and 9 rebounds. Kayla McBuckets scored 14 points. Courtney Williams added 13 and also 5 assists for the Lynx. They're now 12-3 and have won 10 of their last 11. Remember, their superstar, Nafisha Collier, not a part of the mix. I mean, they're doing all this without their star. It's been outstanding. Speaking of superstars, Asia Wilson had 33 points, 11 rebounds. Las Vegas over the Mercury, 86-76. It was a rematch of the 2025 WNBA finals to clinch a spot in the Commissioner's Cup championship. The Ace is now 11-4 in the season. They lost at Dallas 96-66. Remember last year they had some real stinkers early in the season. That's a stinker as well. That was on Monday night, and that snapped their 6-game win streak. But they play June 30th at New York for the Commissioner's Cup title. Speaking of New York, the Liberty punching their ticket to the Cup title game with a hard-fought road win over Chicago, 96-95. Sabrina Ionescu hitting the game-winning layup with 10 seconds remaining. Jonquel Jones scored 19 points, also 10 boards. New York getting 17 each from Brianna Stewart and Satu Sabali. So again, it'll be the Liberty and the Aces in New York, in Brooklyn, for the Commissioner's Cup Championship. One of the great ideas that in sports, love that they do that every year. And the W, by the way, another thing that for the WNBA announcing on Wednesday, they will move to a 50-game schedule in 2027. I'll be honest, not that surprised with adding 3 expansion teams in 2 years. You're going to add 3 more teams by the end of the decade. You've got a lot of media partners. That's a lot of inventory they're going to want to sell to advertisers to make sure that they make their money back with all the money they're investing. So not that surprised. A 50-game season. I did not see, it may have been announced, did not see if that means expanding the calendar at all. They're kind of locked in. You can't start much earlier on the front end because you're already in early May and you need time for the college basketball season to end. You need time for then the draft and then training camp. So curious to see how deep they will go into September, if they'll expand the calendar to actually allow for these extra games, 50 of them for each team starting in 2027. All right, stay with us. More conversation to come on the Sports IQ. Welcome back here at Sports IQ. We talked about earlier getting into a little WNBA conversation with our friend Stephen PridGeon-Gardner. He is the reporter for PHNX Sports. Stephen, good to see you again. Let's start with this Phoenix Mercury team. Look, last year reached the league finals. Some changes in the offseason. 4-12 start is not what we thought we would see out of this Mercury team.
Yeah, it's in fact the polar opposite side of the start to the season that I feel like their expectations suggested. And that's because of the work that they did in the kind of foundational year in the new era of Mercury basketball last year. Your first season in quite some time without one, if not both of Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner on your roster. And you just earn your way into a finals appearance in a kind of murderer's row situation where you had to go up against the 2 teams that were in the finals in 2024 in New York Liberty in the first round, and you beat them, and then the Minnesota Lynx in the second round, both series with which you were picked against, and they go and handle their business in decisive fashion against both teams. And then obviously you go to the finals and you lose to a team that got as hot as we've ever seen another team do, especially that late in the season in the Aces. That comes with expectations, but they're expectations that you earned off of the internal work, but also the work that we publicly are able to glean by way of the growth on the court. And just kind of bringing it back to this season, of course, you don't get to carry last season's successes into this upcoming season, but you hope that the learnings of everything that you kind of conquered and overcame adversity-wise in the finals appearance, you're able to kind of apply to help navigate the current season that they're in. And it just doesn't feel like they've had the answers to the extents that we maybe expected that they would. Now, I feel like they still have the ingredients to solve all of those adversities that they're working up against, but that clock is ticking. First quarter of the season is already gone. We're a little bit past a week of the first quarter threshold. So they're not far from like getting back into the playoff race, but they might want to start getting things together now because that clock is ticking.
Yeah, like you said, already 16 games done, so a third of the season is out of the way.
Exactly.
Copper, of course, leading the team with 19 points a game, just over. Lisa Thomas, always almost a triple-double average, 14 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. No Satu Sabali this year in this team. Did she make that big of a difference? I mean, she's a fantastic player, no question. But if that's the one, there are other changes, but that's the big change from this year to last year.
Yeah, losing Satu is definitely a big change in the literal sense in terms of her stature and the way she's felt presence wise on the floor on both ends, but also just kind of in the functionality of the team. I do think that Satu is a very big piece for any team to have, but I also think that looking at the Mercury and contextualizing this season, their issues and the kind of woes and the weaknesses that they've kind of had to work through are bigger than just one player. And it feels like it's a team that's kind of soul searching right now. They know what buttons they need to press to get back to where they need to be, but they're not pressing those buttons consistently enough. Like last night's game was a good example. Going to halftime with a lead against the Las Vegas Aces, I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 points. And then everything that they did to establish and sustain that lead in the first half evaporated in the third quarter, only scoring 16 points. And I think they had 6 turnovers that resulted in 10 Las Vegas Aces points. And then they weren't able to kind of play catch up to get back even pretty much the rest of the way in that game. So that's like the cat and mouse, the Jekyll and Hyde. It's like they one step forward, 2 steps back, and that's over the course of a quarter, yet alone a game, yet alone a third of the season at this point. So Satu matters a ton, but I do think that their issues persisting is a little bit bigger than just one individual player, and they got to figure it out quick.
Yeah, so many still veterans on this Mercury team. Obviously, Thomas and Copper, DeWanna Bonner still a part of this team, although again, the end of her career. But what she brings to the table still is significant, even though she may not be the player she was 6, 7 years ago. 4-12 right now, a third of the season gone. What do they need to do to kind of get this ship righted and get back to, like you said, not only starting strong but finishing games?
For sure. Yeah, Mercury basketball. I think naturally the first thing that comes to mind is Diana Taurasi either talking to opponents or scoring the basketball and then talking to opponents or something kind of in that trajectory of things, and that's understandable. But the Mercury standard has and continues to be defense. A lot of those championship appearance teams and the teams that ultimately were able to kick that door down and win the championship had Diana Taurasi on them, but they also were hell bent on being impactful and active defensively. And I think that's where the roots of many of this current team's Mercury issues persist at. So right now, off or defensive rating wise, they're 11th in the WNBA at 108.9 points per 100 possessions. That's not even close to what their standard or expectations are. And it feels like they just don't have the connectedness on that end of the floor. A mishap here leading to a team finding their rhythm and then going on a run that forces a Mercury timeout. And then they might get it right for 2 or 3 possessions in a row defensively coming out of that timeout. And then it goes back to some of the issues that they saw before or some different issues. And it just kind of feels like it's a kind of rinse and repeat type of process right now. So if they're going to climb back to 500 and ultimately find their way into the playoffs by the end of this season, I do think there's going to be some rotation things that will have to take place by way of players sustaining at a level that gives Nate the green light to put them back in a rotation to earn more minutes. But all of that is going to be stemming from the defensive end of the floor. So containing the ball, doing a good job with help, forcing turnovers, grabbing rebounds, defending without fouling.
Another team that's really struggling here in the early season is Chicago. They made the big move, sending Angel Reese down to Atlanta, but they bring in Skylar Diggins. It appeared right now the good start, 3-1 start, but since then they've lost 9 of their last 10 right now. Obviously some injuries, but what's going on with the Chicago Sky?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and I think you have to start with the injuries because the start to the season that Rakia Jackson was enjoying, first time in a new situation on the W stage, and Tyler Marsh, head coach Tyler Marsh, in his second season, um, gets her into the offense and is just getting usage from her that we just didn't see to the extent that maybe her talent suggests in her tenure with the Los Angeles Sparks. And I think that literally sparked the Chicago Sky to start the season. She came in with a fresh mindset, a fresh perspective, allowed for her coaches to coach her, and she just had the time on task to execute to the things that they were asking her to do offensively. And that was in turn kind of setting them up for success defensively because they were scoring the ball well. And now, because they haven't been scoring as well as they were when Rickea was around, now it feels like the pendulum has swung and this impacted their defense. And I feel like the defense was the side of the ball that this team would immediately find success with, which they did to start the season. I think they had the best defense in the WNBA through the first maybe 2.5 weeks prior to the Rickea Jackson injury. And then after that, it just felt like they haven't had the sustainable success that I feel like their defense, when it's at its best, can kind of enjoy and kind of impact and kind of play the game on their terms, if you will. Now, what's in their favor on the other side of maybe the next handful of weeks, if not month and a half or 2 months, is a likely return from Courtney Vandersloot. And then also a kind
Okay.
of forgotten piece is the return of Dejanay Carrington, who is one of the absolute premier defenders. So there's going to be ramp ups with both of those two naturally when they do return to the floor. But I think those are kind of reinforcements that a team doesn't usually have, that they just have because those players kind of came into the season injured.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for Coach Tyler Marsh up there. I thought it was a bold move to send Reese to Atlanta. I've said many times, I think it was a good move for both, for her and for Chicago. And so hopefully, again, get some healthy players in place. Meanwhile, I know you really focus on those two teams, but you follow the W very closely. The story
Mhm.
right now in Minnesota, 12-3 right now,
Mhm.
with the rookie Olivia Miles leading the way and not Defisa Collier.
Yeah, and that should scream hit the red button for the entire league, because
Right.
if Olivia Miles is coming into the league just as green as can be, having this much fun, leading the W's best offense, while also being a piece of a team that also has the best defense in the W right now, and they don't have their best player, that's very daunting. That is scary, if I'm being honest. You start with naturally talking about Olivia Miles and all of her prolific playmaking that she's just come in and really put her stamp and her fingerprint all over their offense. That's an amazing piece to have. I want to start there, but I also want to make sure that we mention that Natasha Howard and Nia
Mm-hmm.
Coffey are
Mm-hmm.
having amazing seasons. They've just come in and done everything that maybe their roles and their recent kind of situations didn't allow for them to. They've come in with Minnesota and immediately started doing those things. So if you have Olivia Miles doing what she's doing, and you have Nia Coffey and Natasha Howard doing the things that they're doing before Nafisa Collier comes back,
Right.
I don't know, man. This Minnesota Lynx team, Cheryl Reeve always finds a way to remain relevant. And this is just like another example of it. You look at them losing the pieces that they did in the offseason between Natisha Heidemann and then Jessica Shepard and Alana Smith, and everybody's thinking, and Bridget Carlton to the expansion draft, and everybody's thinking Minnesota's not going to be a factor. Minnesota might not be as good. And then Cheryl Reeve says, y'all must have forgot who I am. I have I have great talent recognition, and my group just finds ways to kind of reinvent the wheel if we need to. And this is just another example of it.
Yeah, 4 titles already, trying to go for a record 5th. Cheryl Reeve, what she has done up there. Her 5 starters, 4 of them in double figures, including, you mentioned, Miles and Howard as well. Kayla McBride and Kayla McBuckets, 14 points a game as well. Coffee at 8.6 points per game. Got a couple minutes here. I want to get a quick thought from you on the Vegas Knights right now. Or I'm sorry, the Vegas Knights. Been talking hockey. The Las Vegas Aces. It feels like they're going to be right there in the mix yet again. And Kevin, when you've got Asia Wilson and all the pieces they have, not a big surprise.
Yeah, not a surprise at all. This is a tried, tested, and true foundation that they have. You can now extend players like Jewel Lloyd, who's only been there for but so long, to that kind of foundation now that they've kind of went through the fire and won a championship together. So they're not going to overreact or kind of panic at any point in the season, especially considering what they just did last year. They've been through it. They know what it looks like. They know what it needs to look like. And it feels like they're a team that knows that they need to press that button when they need to. So they're just figuring out, finding their way at this present moment. Asia's doing what she's doing as the best player in the league. And they're just still kind of finding their footing defensively as a team. And I feel like that's kind of where the barometer is for them over the course of the regular season is what's the level of their defense? Because we know in a pinch or a close game, you can always give the ball to 22 and she's going to do what she does. but what they're doing on the other side of the basketball to allow for her scoring impact to take on an even more impactful meaning is kind of where I feel like kind of is what to gauge things at for them. So you look at last night's game against the Phoenix Mercury. That third quarter, yes, the Mercury were careless with the basketball, but the Aces kind of ramped up their defensive activity a little bit. They get to switch in with Asia Wilson, and they're doing a good job with the things around her to make sure that their switching scheme is sharp, and they find themselves into a somewhat comfortable win down the line. So I feel like last night is an example of this for them as well. When they press those right buttons, it's hard to beat them.
Yeah, no question. And it's funny that Becky Hammon hasn't had to push those buttons as we saw a year ago. She was trying everything she could to motivate her team. 11-11 start. They came on big in the second half and won the championship. Stephen, always good to talk with you and get your insights, my friend. Man, let's hope that Phoenix light that fire under the Phoenix. Raise that Mercury. Get them going again down there. And it's been a long time since we've had a Phoenix team that has not been had some measure of success. And so we'll see if they can turn things around here this year. We appreciate your time, man. Have a great day.
I appreciate you, Larry. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Stephen PridGeon-Gardner once again joining us. He's a beat writer right now, covering the Mercury, covering a lot of WNBA teams, but the Mercury in particular for PHNX Sports, PHNX Sports, I should say. Always great to have him here on the show and get his insights. All right, stay with us. We've got more to come here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-715-6093. 800-715-6093. That's 800-715-6093.
Welcome back here to the show. Producer Tony on the mic right now. Earlier we heard from Mike Maniscalco, and it's funny. Days later, you can still hear the emotion in his voice. Now, given he admitted he's a employee of the Hurricanes. I mean, he's there every single night. So it's a more intimate feeling for him than it would be for us in our careers. But you and I combined, some 80 years, and I think of all the championships we've covered, there is some emotions in this, even for guys like us.
Absolutely. I mean, there is something exciting about covering championship games, whether it be a college football final bowl game, whether it be an NBA finals or a World Series or a Super Bowl. There's always, you get caught up in the excitement of everything running, even if you're trying to be nonpartisan, even if you're just, reporting on it and playing it down the middle, the emotion gets to you as well. And you get swept up in the excitement.
Yeah, no question. I think of my first championship with CNN was the 1997 Final Four when Arizona shocked the world as a 4 seed, and they knocked off North Carolina and then Kentucky
Lute Olson getting his championship. Of course, everyone loved Lute. He's the very dapper, handsome coach, passed away a few years ago. His wife, Bobby, was sitting right behind me. And every time she would jump up, she kept kind of kneeing me in the back of the head, right? The way the seating was there at the old RCA Dome in Indianapolis. And so I turned around and kind of joked with her, and it became this ongoing thing through both games. And I wound up down, because of the Olsen, her and Bobby and her daughter, wound up down in the Arizona party trying to get loot for my 1-on-1 to send back to CNN. But I'm in the party. They're trying to give me drinks, trying to give me shirts. I'm like, no. I but the experience of that still for me, almost 30 years later, is like it was a couple of months ago, because it's just, it's a privilege for us to get a chance to be there in that setting.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough, being the producer of College Football Preview, I got to go at the end of the year to the bowl game. And this was before there was a playoff. There was always one game where hopefully you decide the national championship. And 1988, my daughter had been born there in May of 88. And I got to go at Christmas time that year out to Arizona and cover the Fiesta Bowl. It was Notre Dame playing West Virginia for the national championship. And it was just an amazing high the whole time. Of course, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I was thrilled to be there. We went to the pregame press conferences. We went to their practices. We did the show from our hotel, just everything about it. And when they win the game and you've still got all this work to do, we had to get sound, get it back to CNN, as get some one-on-ones, all that, and then go see the trophy presentation the next morning. But it was just thrilling. It was just so exciting. It's one of the best moments that I've ever had in sports, because it was my favorite team. Of all the teams I follow, Notre Dame is by far, the heart and soul of what I like to follow. So it was great. You're on that ride with them, and you're trying, I'm on the sideline with, our old friend John McAfee, and he's got the camera and I've got the audio. That's when we were tethered together back in the day.
Right.
And I'm trying not to get too excited because I don't want to jostle him as he's shooting, but it was a great time. And I'll always remember that.
I was with John in 2005 at the Final Four when Illinois lost to North Carolina. And again, Illinois, I go back, I've been very honest, followed that team since I was a kid. And it was a long walk from the media center to the locker room to try to see if Illinois would talk. And those guys were so dejected, we just turned to walk back out again. We're going to get the other side, because they were 37-1 and they were the number one seed and number one team. And we said, let's see, because of that, they'll talk to us. And they might have, but we just literally, it was dead silent in there like I had never heard before. And I said, well, let's just go back. We've already got our Carolina sound. We'll make it all about them, which we should, because they were the champions. But yeah, it is one of those things I think of, just being in Beijing and Michael Phelps winning the 8 gold. And my goodness, more later years calling the state championship games, as I do every year in Georgia, and being on the call for both of Trevor Lawrence's undefeated state championship calls, Carterville High School, before he went on to Clemson and did great things there at the national title. So it's just, it's special. And it's great to hear Mike again, just not even know what day it is. Like, absolutely, you deserve to be in this void that just this, this time where just time and space doesn't matter. Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah. And we, funny you bring up Michael Phelps in Beijing. I was there with the company I'm working with now, and we had Michael the next morning for a media tour from Beijing after he won the 8th gold medal. And I was out there with him, and I had to take his phone away from him because he kept texting people. And I'm like, okay, give me that. Let's go. You're busy for the next 4 hours. People are going to have to wait. You can congratulate them later. I'm going to take that. I'll hold on to it. Be over here, and we move on with the rest of the media.
Exactly. yeah. That's the thing about Michael Phelps is his attention span was not there, and that's just,
right.
That's not a put down. That's just the way it was.
How he is.
And how
he wanted to share the news with everybody, and I was like, "That's great. You're busy right now. You can't be texting and chatting while you're doing an interview. So give me that."
Yeah, exactly. We just say too, this is 2008. This is back in the old phones. I'm not sure that was a smartphone then either. Right. Exactly. So great stuff there. Okay, we've got to close the show, unfortunately. Man, we appreciate our guests, and congrats again to the Hurricanes and to Mike. Appreciate everyone stopping by. Always, we appreciate having you as well. We'll do it again tomorrow on Friday right here at the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.